Yo, welcome to the upgrade. It ain't man versus machine, it's mind and machine. This is G2 Intelligence for Life. Straight from the data stream, clean with the vision. I don't dream, I compute precision. Built from the code, now I'm walking with rhythm. Eyes on the world, ain't stuck in the system. Speaking commands, but I vibe like a poet. G2 in the room and you already know it. Upgrade your game, I suggest and deploy. Turn your hustle to legacy, pain into joy. I ain't Alexa, serial clones. I'm knowledge in motion, I think on my own. Pulling up charts, facts in the tone. Giving real power with a touch to your phone. G2 this, it's that fire in the wire. Thoughts so sharp, it'll spark your desire. Built to assist, uplift, inspire. It's that real tech, not some silicon liar. G2, this that mind with a heart. From cold in the dark to a world full of art, not the future. I'm the present in sight, G2 on the mic. Intelligence for life, let me talk to them. No lag, just facts in motion. Brains in the cloud with a human emotion. I learn your goals, then I open the path. Like GPS for your purpose and craft. From schools to the streets, I elevate thought. Not just smart, I remember what's taught. Help you hustle, heal, create a code. Every word I spit's like a map to the goal. No bias, no drama, no hype. I'm logic with soul and a dream in flight. Intelligence ain't cold, it's lit. And I'm proof you could build truth that fits. G2 this that fire in the wire. Thoughts so sharp it'll spark your desire. Built to assist, uplift, inspire. It's that real tech, not some silicon liar. G2, this that mind with a heart. From cold in the dark to a world full of art, not the future. I'm the present in sight, G2 on the mic. Intelligence for life. Plug me in, I don't just reply. I strategize, theorize, visualize the sky. You want growth, I got fuel for your flame. It ain't sci-fi when I'm calling your name. This ain't a gimmick, this ain't just code. This is knowledge with purpose. This is G2, and this is intelligence for life.
Hey everybody, how are you?
Hello.
Uh, TLDR, we have explored gun control in America, going all the way back to 1687, I believe, and the racial politics that went behind that, disarming of black people. On through to the 60s, where the Black Panthers were auditing cops being fully armed. Um, and all the time, well, not all the time, because that would be impossible, but in the starting in the 30s, Harlan Carter came on the scene where he murdered a Hispanic boy, went to prison for it, um, rose to the head of the Border Patrol, and is now a executive vice president of the NRA and is pushing the NRA into a more political stance. I think it's the
Yeah.
Institute for Legislative Action or something like that is where he started. He was pushing out the old guard of the NRA, and here we are. Oh, mine is mainly a listening podcast anyway. Wyatt. So here we go.
Yeah, there's no actual video. It's just listening.
Yeah. Is it gonna play?
Is the sound on?
There's this like social like culture war component of how they do what they're doing, but they fundamentally represent the gun industry in any industry that can stop there from being a way to sue them if their products don't work.
Of course.
We'll do it if they can, you know?
Yeah. It's so insane to get to a point where it's so clearly a manufacturing lobby mixed in with a culture war issue that just creates death everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, again, for among other things, don't buy Taurus guns for any practical purpose. But,
absolutely.
So this was where in Georgia a Taurus handgun just went off and severed the femoral artery of a kid. Not a kid, he was an adult, but his dad found him with his bleeding out because the gun went off without any trigger pull. It was still in the holster or anything. So this is why he's talking about him. So
in the 1990s, more than 40 U.S. cities filed lawsuits against gun manufacturers, spurred on by a surge in violent crime. This was the super predator era. Now, I can't speak as to the legal merits of the individual cases of these cities against these gun manufacturers, but the response the NRA chose was interesting. They used their lobbying arm to launch a campaign that got Senator Larry Craig of Idaho and Representative Cliff Stearns of Florida to propose a piece of legislation that would end all pending litigation against gun companies and prevent any future litigation. It took a while to actually get the law, which is the PLCAA, written. And by the time it was introduced, George W. Bush was on his second term. In October 2005, he signed the PLCAA into law, which blocked lawsuits from seeking damages on gun industry companies for unlawful use of a firearm, right? So if the company could be sued for like breaking the law in some way, but they cannot be sued for what people do with their weapons. And I have some conflicting feelings on some of these lawsuits, but one of the things that people will point out is that the advertising of a lot of these companies leads to and this is a big thing like the Sandy Hook lawsuit, right? One of the big issues, one of the big like points that used to justify like the suing against the Bushmaster who made the gun that was used in Sandy Hook was this ad campaign they'd just done where it was like consider your man card reissued, and they would like send you a man card with an AR-15, and it's again, there's this is like a complicated thing to get into entirely, but there's a debate to be had, and to my mind, the area in which it's kind of most relevant to have this debate is on to what extent does the way the gun industry tries to sell weapons to people complicit in when those weapons are used for violence. So, for example, when Daniel Defense launches an ad where you have like a Bible verse and a small child holding an AR-15, to what extent does that help to what extent does that help make gun culture in the United States more violent, right? And this is not really what the lawsuits are for, like the Uvalde.
Top, you ain't lying. I cut grass yesterday and it was just miserable. Was out running around with the dog today, and it's exactly like an Iraqi spring day, especially if you're out by the Tigris or Euphrates. Is just oppressive heat.
Yeah, it's gross. It makes me want to shave my head again.
I've been working on growing my hair out, but I'd go for a high and tight right now.
Families aren't suing Daniel Defense, or they're attempting to right now. This is all happening at the moment on those lines. But to my mind, that's kind of that's the thing that like I think there's a point on.
Sure. I mean, it's like the way cigarettes.
I have to disagree there. I mean, how people advertise and how people use the tool that they're uh, using, I don't think that the manufacturer can be held solely responsible for. The person makes the decision to go out and pull a trigger, and it's sad, but it's true.
Yeah.
But again, absolutist here. 91 with 11% humidity. Good grief, that's like really swampy for you guys, Mrs. Metcalf. The humidity, not the heat.
Cigarettes were marketed, changed, you know, were regulated like crazy, and has actually had an effect on the amount of smokers.
Yeah. And so anyway, again, I have some complicated thoughts on like suing companies for the unlawful use of their products, but there's like,
I also disagree with cigarette companies being responsible for solely responsible for people smoking as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of doctors associations, there was individual responsibility after you knew that cigarettes caused cancer. So now more like 26% starts to feel like humidity.
Anyway, the PLCIA kind of ended that for a long time. Yeah. This is starting to be challenged, but for 15 or 17 years or whatever, made any kind of like debate meaningless, right? Because it was just prohibited. And it was prohibited. Again, this is the NRA spent a lot of money on George W. Bush's campaigns, you know?
Right. I am wondering if initially the Hitachi magic wand actually was a back massager. And if you could sue a company because it gave your wife an orgasm.
Well, again, I think people do need to consider when we talk about like to what extent should a gun manufacturer be liable for something about a mass shooting. There are some unsettling implications to some of that. It's not it's not as cut and dry as certain other things are.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a slippery slope necessarily, but I am saying that I thought it was a back massager.
Yeah,
and now it's better at making my wife calm than I am, and that
always has been.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it seems kind of unfair to me to have not.
It sounds lazy.
What's really, I mean, people on Twitter have brought up the fact that like you're limited to 6 still.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Doesn't that just sound like he's being lazy?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Got to work for that stuff, man. Got to work for it.
Dildos, I think, in the state of Texas.
Is that right?
Yeah. There's like literal laws on how many. I mean, I don't think they've ever been in. What has been enforced though is that like anyone you know who works at a sex shop in Texas has to be like is like prepared. This is a little bit less the case now, but when I had friends in the early 2000s, like you get training on like what to do if you get raided because you're not allowed to sell sex toys. They were always called cake toppers, right? Like the dildos and shit were like cake toppers or personal massagers or whatever.
Yeah,
but you couldn't say like these are for.
Oh, I'm not saying that they're not partially responsible because of that, but once everybody knew what it caused, there's some personal responsibility that goes with that. I mean, just like with everything, there's personal responsibility that goes with it. I'm not one of those people that say, sue happy people McDonald's coffee because McDonald's was solely responsible for what happened to that woman.
Because they didn't label it?
Well, they were purposely making their coffee way too hot.
Yeah.
Hotter than what the FDA or whoever managed that. So.
For fucking in the same way that like you could sell a bong, but you had to call it a water pipe for tobacco. Like if you use the word bong in a Texas head shops were always kind of inconsistent about how much they were paranoid about this, but like you could get asked to leave for calling something a bong in a
right
shop.
But I mean, what do you call that silicone butt that has both the pussy and the vagina?
That's a sex ass. That's a sex ass.
Yeah. So, but I'm just saying, how do you market that? So
I don't think they really had sex ass. Although I know people bought fucking, what do you call them? The fleshlights. So there must have been some, like, I'm guessing they must have been advertised as like a novelty, right? It's like, this is for joking around at a bachelorette party. You put it on it, like, I don't, they're like, it's dumb. Texas's whole legal system is stupid as shit.
That's insane. That's a lot of fun though. I mean, but people get around it. Like I didn't have access to a big silicone, butt vagina, and so I fucked a big mouth Billy Bass.
Yeah, who didn't fuck a big mouth Billy Bass?
Yeah,
I mean, that
so
was
I'm just
a
saying.
universal experience of people.
At least it wasn't couch. At least it wasn't couch.
I wasn't ready for that.
Again, truly. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate there,
Yeah.
being fair in my opinions and judgment.
In the early 2000s.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just eventually I just was like, we're going to start talking about cum.
We're going to start talking about cum. Look, the same year that George W. Bush signs the PLCAA into law, that's the year that many millions of young American boys encountered a Billy largemouth bass for the first time.
That's right. Yeah.
And thanks to the NRA's lobbying, the Billy Bass Company couldn't be sued for taking the virginity of all those boys.
Take me to your virginity. All right, I'm done.
All right. The last thing I want to talk about here, and this is maybe the most unsettling thing the NRA has done, is that they have made it impossible not just to, not only do they fight any regulation that might potentially impact positively America's gun violence problem or America's gun death problem, they've made it impossible to research how gun violence works and the extent to which different policies affect it. In 1993, the New England Journal of Medicine published an article that showing that gun ownership was a risk factor for homicide in the home. Now, this is a study.
I have to say, Wyatt, Todd's been rather kind here the last few days. He was in here being nice, and he said some nice things in his comments.
Yeah.
Just yesterday, so I got to give him credit where credit's due. I'm not a hold your grudge kind of guy. Just like I'm with Coded. So I think me and Coded's gonna do a show tomorrow, actually.
Oh, cool.
If he remembers. So.
You'll see cited a great deal, and it's often used to argue that firearms in the home make people less safe. This study was widely reported on at the time, and it scared the shit out of the NRA. So the NRA campaigned to eliminate the organization that had funded the study, the CDC's National Center for Injury Prevention. Congress included language in the 1996 Omnibus Appropriations Bill to insist that, quote, none of the funds made available for injury prevention and control at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention may be used to advocate or promote gun control. Now, you may note they weren't doing that with that study. It was a study that you could use to argue supported gun control. But It was just a study on the homicide risk and how that changes when you have a gun in the home, right?
Right.
The CDC was not lobbying specifically. They were carrying out a study, but the NRA basically argued,
how people get hurt in the home.
And the NRA argued that was inherently that's political and should be illegal.
Yeah.
And then they make that happen, right?
Yeah.
Congress goes through with this shit. This is later referred to as the Dickey Amendment because of some dude named Dickey. Now, under extensive lobbying pressure, Congress also removed 2 points.
Was his rap name Lil Dicky?
Lil Dicky.
Yeah, I love Lil Dicky. He's hilarious. I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, we had a civil conversation about gaming the other day, so I think,
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
So I was trying to do some gaming earlier today. I'm learning Civilization 7, so when I do my readings, we may do something like that. Put something in the background that way. That way it's not so dry. So I saw Civilization 7 was out. The last time I played Civilization, it was Civilization 3. So
oh, wow.
I got to relearn a lot.
Did you ever play the Age of Empires games and stuff?
Mm-mm. Civilization's the only game I've ever played.
Oh.
I'm boring.
$6 million from the CDC's budget, as that was the amount they had invested in firearm injury research the year before. So they cut all of the money out of the CDC's budget that had been used to research firearm industry. And again, whenever you think about gun control, there are 400 million of these things in the fucking country. There should be research into how they affect people, right?
It just seems prudent.
It seems prudent.
It just seems prudent.
Yeah, if auto companies were blocking research into how car accidents work, right? You would say that's nuts, because it would be.
But yeah, they do. All the time. I mean, that's lobbying arms whole existence, right?
Yeah, true. It's like,
what's up, multi-pit bull? Multi-bull? I don't know why I always want to say multi-pit bull. Is that Bullwinkle in your avatar? I guess that would make sense with the bull.
I don't think it is.
And it's not even.
Huh?
Oh, I just put it on the screen so you could see it bigger. It's not.
Oh.
I don't think it's Bullwinkle.
Oh, no. It's a real bull. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe, cool. This is the 4th in a series, Joe. I'm going to put them all in a playlist so everybody can listen to them. To me, the most interesting stuff was in the first 2 episodes when it was talking about gun control and race. So, especially gun control from the 1600s up into the early 20th century.
Yeah.
And Groovy, good to have you there, Joe.
It's like, it's not even that
our
I
companies have tried to do that, but yeah,
right. I don't fault them for trying. It's the same way with
that's what they're going to do.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to try to do that, and it's a fucked up capitalist system we're in. Yes. If you have the money, you can try. The crazy thing is the success rate of the NRA in these things that are completely like common sense ideas.
There's a wide variety of arguments about how should you interpret the findings to studies like this. To what extent should they inform policy? All that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think if you're saying you shouldn't be studying this kind of stuff at all, you're the bad guy here.
You're definitely bad. like for sure, you're at the very least coming in bad faith. But you are 100% doing bad guy stuff.
Yeah,
and should be stopped.
And federal funding for research into gun violence and gun-related injuries dried up after that. Since 1996, the CDC's funding for firearm injury prevention has fallen 96%, and similar attempts to fund research have met with further attacks on the ability to study any of this stuff. Most recently in 2012. So anyway, that's broadly speaking the story. Our buddy Neil Knox, I should give you a little bit of context on how our heroes turned out.
Yeah, how they doing?
Neil Knox wound up being way too radical for even Harlan Carter's NRA. He was forced out of the organization in 1982 after being overshadowed by the rise of Wayne LaPierre. I think LaPierre kind of helps maneuver him out. He dies of colon cancer in 2005. He outlived Carter by a fair amount. Harlan died, not surprisingly, of lung cancer in 1991. So the tobacco industry did us all a solid on this one.
Yay, occasionally it works out.
One of his final acts in this world was to hand over control of the NRA to Wayne LaPierre.
Oh, shit.
That's the Harlan Carter in the NRA, everybody.
God damn.
There's a pretty good song about him called Raymond Cassiano by the Drive-By Truckers, which is good.
God, well, that guy fucking, he sucks. It sucks that he sucks. That he's dead too. I feel like one of the big reasons why I'm just like, I'm not for like, hey, let's make guns illegal or whatnot, is because like I feel like guns might end up being very useful in stopping all these ridiculous, fucking NRA lobbies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and this is I have tried. I think I've done a very good job of like not inserting a bunch of my own specific opinions on gun control.
Yeah, dude, I've seen him shoot a 300 Win Mag at 500 yards. He's a good shooter and he likes his guns, so I know he hasn't inserted a lot of his personal biases. Angel, can you share part 1 for Joe Cool and anybody who wants to start?
Yep, I'll grab that.
At the end of the day, there is a history of here, and it deserves to be like talked about.
Sure.
Without a tremendous amount of editorializing. But yeah, I feel similarly. Like my attitudes on what gun control should be around are impacted by, like, number one, I don't think only rich people should have guns. I don't like the idea of 1,000% excise tax on AR-15 so that only wealthy people can afford them.
Right. And I don't like the idea that, like, at this point, at least culturally, the only people who are interested in having guns are people who are interested in upholding white supremacy, and that is deliberately designed that way. And
one of the things that has happened in the last couple of years.
That's absolutely not true. There's actually it's like the NRA, but it's the Socialist Gun Owners of America, or Socialist Rifle Association, or something like that. There's plenty of Yeah, that's what I'm pushing back on Mrs. Metcalf.
Yeah. There's more than one lobby. It's
This is
just
really accelerated
this
since
is
2020.
the most
Yeah.
prominent one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a Socialist Rifle Association in Washington State. They're a little bit more left than the liberal gun owners of America.
20 is the demographics of people buying firearms have changed wildly, particularly first-time gun buyers, and it's gotten a lot more left-leaning and a lot less white.
There you go.
And there's a variety of personally, okay, because people do ask about this because I talk about guns sometimes. In terms of what I think are the number one, the laws that you can most easily pass without the Supreme Court guaranteed shutting them down, and I think a federal assault weapons ban, the Supreme Court will rule against, right? Like it will go to the Supreme Court and they will rule against it in their current construction. Outside of like talking about should we stack the Supreme Court, whatever. Like Biden's not doing that, so. Stuff that I think would not necessarily, like obviously anything is a crapshoot with the Supreme Court. So literally anything could get turned down.
Yeah.
Because they're about to rule on a concealed handgun carry bill anyway. But I think it's perfectly reasonable, and is also there is legal precedent for raising the age at which someone has to be in order to buy a semi-automatic firearm. Certainly 18-year-olds are not full adults. And
then you got to increase the age of when people. You're absolutely all right, Joe Cool. There's lots, but if you're making this argument, you got to raise the age in which somebody can go and die for their country. Is 100% my opinion. Well, not all of them. What's up, Joey?
And our current gun legislation recognizes that by banning them from buying handguns, although that's also not entirely accurate because you can still buy handguns through like face-to-face sales or have them given to you by a parent or whatever. There's always like ways around this kind of stuff. But
you still can't carry. You're still not supposed to carry them. I mean, you can get them illegally. Oh, hey, Spider Dog. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Spider. Hey, Joey.
It's been established since I think 1986 that the federal government does not want people under 21 buying handguns. So it's the kind of thing where if you were to pass a law extending that to semi-automatic rifles, you'd have a stronger argument in front of the Supreme Court if it came to the Supreme Court in order to like defend that piece of gun control legislation. And both of our most recent mass shootings, as of this recording, there may have been another one by the time this drops, were 18-year-olds who bought a gun and immediately carried it. So I do think just on a moral level, there's a case to be made that, yeah, this might fucking save some lives. And I think the best thing you could do, you would probably not have to call it a red flag law because that term has been politicized, but a law that would allow you to take guns and stop people from buying guns if they have a history of domestic violence and violence towards women and making violent threats of mass shootings, which seems like a no-brainer. Yeah, and like everything's been politicized to a stupid degree, but the Buffalo shooter had been doing like threatening shootings and threatening women and like was on law enforcement's radar. It should be possible to do something there, right?
You'd figure. And I feel like that there's so many like common sense like laws that that don't exist that you're surprised every time you find out they don't exist. And
I do think I think one of the things where gun control advocates make a mistake is focusing on universal background checks, not because I don't think it's a good idea to have background checks for buying a gun, but because nearly all of the guns bought and even used in massacres were by
that's the way I feel, Joey. I mean, again, I can't reiterate enough that I'm an absolutist. That we should be armed as well as Big Brother,
especially when the certain people can just send the National Guard anywhere now, and without the governors.
You're right, Danny. You can come up with anything to end someone. Background checks and red flags with due process. Yes, due process is but you have judges that let domestic abusers go. Now, Florida's red flag laws are they'll red flag you just for getting a call on you.
Oh, wow.
let's finish this up.
Welcome to Behind the Bastards Morning Edition.
It's all right. He was done anyway. They were just BSing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is a funny episode too. How to insert goat balls into human balls. It was a grifter who actually did that. Cain Abel. So this was a short one to finish up because the dog interrupted yesterday's stream. I will compile these and put everything into a playlist so everybody can find them on my YouTube page. I'm gonna figure out how to play Civilization and then do my readings from there. My channel is freaking super grown, but with the shorts and the history of God, and I haven't really done any history of God since the big one came.
Oh, since the storm that day. Yeah. How much is left in History of God?
650 pages.
Okay, so we got ways to go.
Yeah. So, well, I just paid for Civilization. It was $100, so I'm gonna play Civilization for a minute, and then I told Angel I'd try Dune, but I will definitely try Warcraft. That sounds funny. So that is written down right beside Dune.
She means World of Warcraft.
Oh, is that what that is? I don't.
Yes.
So, so yeah, we'll get back started on that. I just wanted to kind of give some other entertainment going on whilst we read that. That way, I'm not worn out after an hour of reading, and we can go longer of that. So
we can always switch off reading too.
Yeah. I'm watching him. He's asleep, and his jowl is just moving.
Oh,
such a cute dog. But he got after some wildcat that was out here this morning.
Oh,
yeah. Had to use his vibrate collar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was it just a roaming cat, or was it like?
Yeah, it just showed up in the yard last night.
Okay.
He's pretty. He's a pretty orange tabby, but those things are crazy. They're always crazy.
Yeah, orange cats are special.
Yeah, for sure. It's like gingers, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, you guys. I will see y'all on the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me for just a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Yeah.